So sorry about that. If you watched my first video, I was talking about winter preparation on our farm here in Iowa. This is going to be number 2 video of that video. So I'm sorry, we just had a little technical problem. But this is the follow-up and the finishing of my winter preparation on our farm in Iowa. So I was talking at before the end of that video, oh yes, about, raising your own meat or fruit, your own food on your farm, and how so many people think, oh, it's cheaper, I want to do that. And like I was saying, we're just using butchering meat as an example, is that in the beginning, it's not going to be cheaper. You're not going to see that. And you're going to be like, what in the world? This is not any cheaper. This is actually more expensive, right? Because you're building, you're getting your equipment, you're getting it set up, this, that, and that. But then as the years go on, because that part is only one-time cost, the meat is definitely a lot cheaper. And also, it's such a blessing to others. So, you can let your friends and neighbors, what we do, people at church, things like that, use that butcher shop. They buy the animal from us and they use the butcher shop to help them to be able to get that meat for them. And it's such a blessing, and it's so much savings for them. So, we love to pass on the blessings to as many people as we can. And so that is a reason, and that's one of our main reasons of doing it, to be a blessing to others when it comes to food. I really feel like that's kind of our calling from God, is to help others with food security and things like that. So I really love that, and that's close to my heart for sure. And also the same thing would be with fruit, right? Fruit trees. We have 3 orchards, but let me tell you, when we planted our orchards, before we had kids and when we first moved to our farm, the trees, they were expensive, but they were nothing what they are today. And we have said this multiple times to ourselves, if we were planting orchards today, we wouldn't have been able to afford it, because the price of fruit trees are ridiculous, right? And so there again, it takes time, right? So when you're going to plant an orchard, it's going to be expensive. The time, buying the fruit trees, this, that, and the other, you're going to say, this is really expensive. You're like, I can't do this. This is not saving us money. But then as the years go on, like now, our orchards are ridiculous, right? God's blessed them, and they just are magnificent, and they bless others, and they bless us, and it's amazing. And we just have to do the maintenance, which is not that much. So, which you can see on my channel, when we do our maintenance to our fruit trees. So anyway, so back to it. So like I said, that's why you have to have a heart for farming. You really do. Because it is not as easy as what it sounds like. It's not as fancy and fun and happy all the time, right? Because there is a lot of ups and downs, and there's a lot of trials and things like that. But if you can keep your heart in the right place, you can get through that, and you can say, you know what, I'm thankful. We are thankful, even for the bad. We're thankful for the trials. We're thankful for that, because it makes us stronger. It makes us rely on God more, and it also, it's a good feeling, right? When God got you through that, you're like, thank you, God, and you're like, you know what, we can do this. We can do this. We can do it tomorrow. We can do it again, because we know He gets us through it, right? It's nothing that we're doing, but if He gets us through it, then we can do it for as many days as He lets us, right? So, and we're thankful for that. So now, my last thing about winter in Iowa will be our honeybees. So, I did the animals and I did the equipment, but now the honeybees is going to be kind of a whole different thing, right? Because they're different. They're not just like a regular animal. So, of course, for honeybees, their position of their hives, that's a big thing for winter here in Iowa. When we first started our bees, which was last year before the winter, but then once it got to be winter, we only had 3 hives, right? And so during the non-winter months, they were in the pasture. The bees were in the pasture. We thought when we first got them, oh, this is a great place. They're away from the road. They're back, tucked away by the woods, the pasture. Lots of plants, everything that they love. Great place for them, right? And we said, this is good. But then, as it got to be colder, and they were just like right in the middle, right? We said to ourselves, I don't think this is going to be a good idea, because they're not going to have anything to block them from the wind. And also, they were in the north part. Like, that was our pasture is north, in the north area. So we're like, this isn't a good idea, actually. So gratefully, we thought about that before the winter happened. Because if you remember last winter, like I said, on my other video, and you can go back and check, was a really bad winter last year. So gratefully, though, we thought about this before, and we moved, and we only had 3 hives, too, so it wasn't that hard to move them up to one of our orchard, the orchard that's right by our house, and our white barn, and we put them on this side, the south side of the barn. And so that was a great windbreak and great protection for them. And then on the one west side, we put some hay bales, and we do put hay bales. We did it again this year, but it was such a great protection for them. And then of course in the front they had the fruit trees. So and then our house was on the other side. So it was such a great protection for them. That was just like ideal. It was an ideal. And then it turned out that in the spring and in the summer and in the fall of this past year, that was the ideal place for honeybees, because like I said, right in front of them was an orchard. They still had the protection from the barn from the summer, for shade. In the spring and fall, when you get a lot of wind here in Iowa, they were protected from that. It was an ideal place. So then what we just ended up doing was just keeping our hives there, and now we're up to 11. So that's a whole nother story, the way God blessed our bees, and He still does bless them. But so that's your number one. You need your location for your hives in the winter. You got to have the wind blocks, and then also we insulate our hives. So like when we do our winter food, the top boards, we put a piece of insulation on the top of them because heat rises. So that's where they're going to lose their heat mostly. And so we put a piece of insulation on the top. It's going to keep the heat in for them. So that's number one. Number two, sometimes when it gets to be that negative weather or even single digits, if you have a small hive, which we do have 3 small hives this year because we got a lot of late swarms that past year, you have to wrap them with batting insulation. But that's really kind of hard. It's really particular. You can't do it when it's too warm, but you want to get it when it's too cold, but then if it starts getting back into the 20s and 30s, you've got to unwrap it. So this week you will do a video when we unwrap them. Because the thing is, that holds moisture. So you can't let like snow and ice get on that and then melt and be wet, stuck, wrapped around that hive. That's a terrible idea, actually, because it will just draw the moisture and it'll be bad for the bees. So that's why you really have to like put it on when exactly the right time and take it off just as quickly when it's time, because the sun can't get to them. And so once it gets back into the 20s and 30s and it's going to be sunny again, you want the hive to be able to have that. So that's something else. And then also, like I said, the winter food, right? So this, I've been talking a lot on this video. My throat's getting dry. So the food is different, of course, for bees in the winter. You have to give them a candy board. That's a hard food. Like I have a video of us making that and installing it and checking it. We just checked it today. Changing it out. So there's a whole bunch of steps. It's not just like your liquid food. Or also, they do have their own resources as long as your bees did well. They will eat those, but then you need to have that candy board as extra because you don't know how long it's going to take them to eat their natural resources. And you don't want them to starve. A lot of bees die in the winter or at the end of winter because of that. Okay, so now also you have to make sure that there's no little holes in the hive. So like we tape our hives, we have to keep the cold air out of them. Cover up the screen bottom board with the cardboard because of the cold air. So there's a whole bunch. All of this stuff it goes into bees. You can't check them. You don't check them anymore. As far as besides switching out the food, you cannot dig into hives when it's cold out. The bees don't like cold. Like they cannot fly around in the cold. They don't. I did a whole video about winter bees, about what the bees do in the winter. Please go back and check that. You'll see everything that the bees do in winter because they do not sleep. They don't die off and they don't sleep. That's all I'm going to tell you. So look at my video, please, about what bees do in the winter. But for the beekeeper and for us, this is what we had to do for them. So as you can see, there's a whole long list of the things that have to be done here on our farm in winter in Iowa. Also, like I said though, any farmer, you have that list, especially with animals. Now, like I said though, if you live somewhere else that isn't Iowa, please leave me a comment and tell me how it is in your farm in winter. Okay, and also put a thumbs up if you like my videos, please. And please subscribe, and please tell people to subscribe because it's really blessing us. And if you guys can bless us, then that helps us to bless you and spread God's love and spread God's word with you all. And just tell you thank you and how grateful we are for your views and you guys watching our videos. Have a great night. Bye.